All right, we're going to call the general government committee meeting to order for a motion to approve the agenda.
So,
Second.
Any discussion? Between 9 and 10, the director wants to give a report. Everybody's okay with the director's report there? Between 9 and 10.
Okay.
Otherwise, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carries. What are minutes from our September 12th meeting?
Make a motion to approve.
second.
Any discussion on the minutes? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Are there any public comment? No public comment?
Not have any written.
Any supervisors here not either as committee members? All right, well, the government center project update.
Morning, everyone. Just a quick update. I handed out to you the weekly update from Martin and Johnson. Phase 2 is moving along very well. We are scheduled now to move offices on October 24th back to their locations. We've been delayed a couple weeks due to door frames and doors coming in. So at that point, HR will go back to their suite, and we'll put Vince in the old jail for a short time. So he'll be down there. The boilers were installed, got them in the building last week. We do not have heat currently in the government center, nor AC, so we're working on a temporary heat plan. It's going to take about a month to get the new boilers up online once the plumbing comes in. So that's an ongoing thing, and we're still trending approximately about 2 to 3% that I mentioned over budget, the original budget. So we're still in that same time frame. We still have some credits coming in, so we're still around that $200,000 of the budget. So we're still trending, trying to get things done. That's it.
Questions, comments? All right, thanks.
Thank you.
What's happening in our Golden Age Manor? Possible resolution.
So GAM is requesting that we consider a write-off on some accounts that are uncollectible. And my computer will behave. It's about $160,000. It literally is not behaving, so I can't look at the file, but about 10 different accounts that are 13 accounts that are uncollectible, $154,000. My understanding is that this has occurred at least once in recent history, 5 or 7 years ago. And what the net effect is that this would remove $154,000 from the balance sheet. But those, we've deemed these to be uncollectible debts. That's what we need to think about. And we've got a resolution drafted. I want to bring this to your attention and have a conversation about it.
Well, we've done it before.
You know, just because I have no idea what kind of debts become uncollectible.
These are usually debts that relate to residents who have passed away and they don't have an estate, or residents who did not sign up for Medicaid or Medicare in time. And so the look back date didn't cover certain things and they have no assets. They're basically
It's like they owe for services,
yes,
but have nothing to back that up.
The largest of these is about $37,000. The smallest is just over 5.
Surprised we don't have more.
In terms of that's an interesting point, if I could elaborate on it. All of these range from, some go back, I'm reading this right, 2014. So this isn't just 1 year, it's it looks like it's 7 years worth of accounts. So our recommendation is to go ahead with this and write this off. It'll be removed from the balance sheet.
Is that something you're gonna try to do prior to this budget?
We would like to do it this fiscal year, correct? But we'd like to bring it, have it voted on prior to the, at the latest in December meeting.
The numbers reflect now.
Sorry?
I was just saying, have the numbers reflect appropriately now. Do you think that is it good to have this be the process where just every once in a while, you know, if Dan brings it up or if we notice that there's or should this be kind of a regularly reviewed thing?
And I think that's a great question, and I don't know why we haven't looked at this on a more periodic basis than every. But I will raise that with GAM management, and also I'll ask our finance team, you know, what if they have any insight into why some of these go back so far.
I would assume we learn from this and take precautions to avoid this in each of the cases moving forward.
Right. And it's, you think, obviously that's the best approach, right? Is don't get in this situation. Sometimes when people pass or whatever they're getting at, and then we continue to try and say, okay, are there avenues where we can get our payment?
Isn't golden age matter though? Can they refuse service? They can.
Yeah, they're not, just because they're county owned doesn't mean that they are, you know, the taker in of those who can't get in at other places. But by default, they do end up taking more of that population. They have reduced their bed size. So just based upon staffing and for other reasons, they have to turn some people away just because of inability to provide care.
That'd be the way to avoid it, but probably the ones that we've got here were ones that were residents, and then ran out of you know, any kind of resident. Or I don't know, what are you gonna do with that?
Some of the difficult things, you know, a large segment of their population will be right on the cusp of, are they competent themselves? Or do they need a guardian? If they don't have any advanced planning, who can we talk to about making sure the finances are covered and there's a way to pay, and applications for, you know, medical assistance are timely. All of those things are things that need.
It doesn't take much to accumulate 10,000,
No.
20,000, 30,000. It accumulates fast.
So will be a resolution next meeting?
That's correct.
There's no action.
November, December, right?
Yeah.
It won't be October.
All right.
Is that this year or is that at the board?
I would need to go. I think we'd look for a recommendation from this committee and then go.
Anything else on that discussion? If not, we'll have a little budget.
All right. So I passed out a couple of documents. Hold on a second. So the one that's sort of in vertical format is the CIP. It's an update from what you saw last month. We've really tightened things down a fair amount since for the 2023 column is the one we should be paying most attention to. We had quite a lot more unfunded requests at that point when we showed this to you last month. We've asked departments to review very carefully their requests. We pulled some purchases forward into 2022 when we could, anticipating the surplus, and we have really dialed that number down. So what you see after that cover sheet is sort of a department by department kind of look at what we're talking about, or asset class by asset class. So I'm happy to entertain any questions about this. I think the big picture is the departments in the county have done a good job squeezing down their requests to a sustainable sort of level. And we will have the final version of this pending your discussions. We'll have I should say the penultimate version next Tuesday for your board meeting. And any changes past that October board meeting would be reflected in the November budget It will be printed in the paper and then voted on at the November 15th meeting.
I see they have 200,000 under law enforcement for mobile command center.
That's right.
So do they, is that then split up?
That's a good question. Right now, what we've got in the budget is that $200,000 allocation for a unit that's substantially less expensive than the one we talked about before.
Yeah.
Vince, if you'd like to address that, or I can address it, where we got to down to that number.
I think the mutual agreement of most people I spoke with, specifically the sheriff and Don, is that we need some type of vehicle at our disposal for emergency. It's good to have. The one we have is breaking down, but not in the structure of the chassis and the motor. So we looked at 4 options: repairing the one we have, purchasing a used one that has similar to ours that has been repaired, buying a trailer type device along with a truck to pull it. And then 4th, we looked at that newer version of the downsized one, which was $580,000. The consensus with the sheriff and myself, and we can take that current machine and have it tooled, retooled, upgraded with the equipment and devices they need. And we think well under 200,000, but we thought, let's make sure. So I've been talking with Don, and I've got a meeting with Don and Tanya today to make sure that both of the primary users, and it'll be primarily a law enforcement tool. They'll have we think with that 200,000 more than enough to repair everything that needs repaired, retool it, make it look nice, keep it.
Anybody else?
Just briefly, there's another packet, and actually, this may be the next agenda item.
Annual budget amendment recommendation.
Yes, so this is sort of in between in a way. So you've got another packet that's in landscape mode. These are the income statements for the departments that report into general government. So it's the county clerk, the treasurer, corporate counsel, admin, IT, human resources, HR, museum, care, and outside agencies. So if you look in the leftmost numeric column, that's where each of these departments stands at right at the end of 3rd quarter. So all things being equal, we would have spent about 1/3 of our resources, brought in about 3/4 of our resources, brought in about 3/4 of our expenses. You'll see that we've got some budgets that are in deficit, and some that are in surplus. If you've got questions about the specific deficits, I'd be happy to answer those. I can give you a couple of examples. If you were to look on the 2nd page, treasurer, there's about $100,000 in miscellaneous revenue. We've booked none. My understanding is that has to do with tax forfeitures, the fact that we don't have any right now.
Where did you see it?
Yeah, so if you look at treasurer,
Yeah.
and you look at miscellaneous revenue, we've got $100,000 budgeted for 2022. And so far we've taken in 0. There's no tax property. We have had some property sales. If you have been in the ES meeting, you'll know that we sold some properties around Plant Falls Village. Won't necessarily balance that $100,000 out. It's coming into a different account, but we have had some revenue in that sort of realm. Overall, we are thinking we'll look pretty good for 2022 across not only general government committees, but across the entire county. I'll be providing monthly updates on where we stand with that. We won't really have the final answer until about March of 2023. This is the time of year, if we knew we were facing a deficit, we would start to have conversations about a budget amendment. Right now, we're not seeing anything. So I don't have anything to say, but that's sort of a standing agenda item for the last couple of meetings. I will update you if I see anything that looks like we might need an amendment. So we start here and then go up to the board, but right now I'm not seeing it.
And you usually, the museum's down here with these other things. So this year it's different. And it's this thing that the museum's not. Help me understand this.
Yeah, so right now we're showing a positive balance on the museum for about 172,000. And if you chase the numbers down, you'll see that we've got $180,000 in capital outlay for the museum hasn't been spent yet.
Oh,
So
okay.
that goes back to
That's the tower
the
thing
tower
and stuff. Gotcha.
and Mo can comment on this if you'd like, but my understanding is that that may come in a little bit less than that. And then our question will be whether we move forward with, on a project basis, some of the other items that are deferred maintenance for the museum.
Yeah.
Would you like to address that or?
Sure. Right now, the project for the bell tower came in at 108,000.
Yeah.
Not to exceed. So we've had a slight increase with the museum in professional services on some repairs we did. So they're trying about $8,000 over budget. You take the 180 out of there.
Yeah.
But there is a savings there on the bell tower project, so we may be able to get some more work done within that round.
Okay. Okay.
Did you say the bell tower came in at 108?
180 that was assigned.
But then we also had an estimate on replacing the windows in the bell tower that kind of feeds into that project.
Yeah, so we've got a couple other projects out there, to consider. One is, I don't know the details, but sounds like filling in a coal room or something like that. And so there's some decision making about, prioritization, whether those can be need to be done now put off. The last page has to do with outside agencies, and there's a little more detail here than the other income statements, just so you can see where looking to, these are organizations that we support essentially. And you can see the working budgets in the far right. Not much change from the 2022 budget. West Central basically taxes us, and they just increased our dollar amount this year by less than $2,000. But that's something that we don't control.
Any of the outside agencies that came in and asked for an increase, or any of them given?
No, we did not give any increases for those specific asks. Primary reason is, we're tightening things here in the county. Most of the additional asks look at the current income they have, where they get their funding, how much they have, and what they needed, what they asked the money for. And many times it was simply a request for additional funding so they could, quote, do more things. And we've had a history here, recent history of increasing. And it almost seemed this year like it became a expectation. And I don't know what the role of government is to fund agencies whenever they want to increase their budget. So we just thought that they're financially in good shape, so we kept it flat.
Well, unless someone comes in with a budget amendment, this is your recommendation.
Stay the same, yeah. The one we did not, the CR.
Community Referral Agency. CRA, Community Referral Agency, and asked for 10,000.
That was the first time they've come to us in several years, and it was more of a hey, we hear you give out money. And they are a well-funded organization, probably the best funded of the ones who come and ask. And they didn't have any specific ask. And our thought was, sounds like a great organization, maybe something we want to do, but we thought, now that we know about you, we got you in the books, come back next year. We just didn't feel it was just because they come and ask, oh, sure, hand out money. So they have a lot of money in the bank, and they How much was there?
They raised around 37% of their operating revenue from fundraising, a little over 300 grand. So they're successful at fundraising, and they gave a great presentation.
Yeah.
I might have missed the beginning of your comment. Did you say that that's the one request that got shot down?
Yes, we did not. That was the only request that
The
came in.
rest of them got.
Well, every year we've given to those organizations. The community referral agency was the new one in the group.
So the only one that was increased was West Central. And that, again, they just, it's almost like an apportionment. Sorry.
Also, the only increase that was approved was West.
That's correct.
Got it.
Less than, sorry.
Community referral, where are they report? Where are we seeing community referral?
They presented to general government probably 3 months. Well, August. And along with all the other agencies that were coming in, and they do good fundraising. They have a lot of sources of funding from the state.
But it's not listed on here because we've never given anything before.
We used to years ago,
Yeah.
5, 7 years ago, I think. And yeah, like I said, there wasn't a specific request. Here's what we need the money for. It was like, hey, do you want to give to us? Here's,
Yeah.
So the message there would be good organization. Thank you for introducing yourselves to us. Come back next year.
All right. The last thing I have are additional funding requests from departments that roll up into general government. So these are going to, at the October meeting, which is just a week away, administrator will present a list of funding requests from departments that are recommended by administration. There will be a set of options for you as board members to consider outside of those. What I'm going to do today is just share with you the 4 or 5 that are coming out of departments that are connected to general government. Next Tuesday, you'll see the full list across all departments. If you've been through the other meetings, you've seen something like this for public safety, public works, for ES, ... So we've got a total of 5 requests with some of all up together, it's about $460,000. The Treasurer's Office and Land Information need to upgrade their system that allows folks to see, what property is and how much it's being taxed, that sort of thing. The amount there is $30,000. Corporate counsel's requested additional staffing, $41,000. We've got 3 IT requests that total up, let's see, 340, almost $390,000. So we've got servers that need to be replaced, switches for the government center, and then a risk mitigation consultant going to tell us what's wrong with our system and how we fix it over 2 years. That's $48,000. So those are the 5 requests that are coming up from departments connected to general government, and then have a provisional recommendation from the administrator. The funding sources are listed over here on the far right. There's really 2 choices for us. We have general fund drawdown, or we can use a fund that's essentially an internal loan fund. So that's called asset recovery. What we use this fund for is when there's a lumpy expense. So when there's a big purchase you need to do in 1 year and you want to kind of spread it out. In the case of IT, they buy servers, they're very expensive. We don't need to do that for 5 or 7 years. And so we spread out the expense for those. We also end up asking departments to support that over time. So this internal loan fund gets paid back by departments who use a share of, in this case, servers or switches. We've used that before in law enforcement. When there's a periodic purchase that's lumpy, we need to spend a lot of money in one time and kind of spread it out. That's what that asset recovery fund is for. Questions about that or our process overall? I think we're ready for a director. Okay, I'm going to put the microphone down in a second. I'll keep this short. Sort of sticking on the finance theme, the audit season seems like it now goes year round, and we just No, it's our single audit, which is also called the compliance audit, submitted by CLA on the 30th of September. This is the audit that tells us if we've done anything wrong, what we did wrong, if we put the credits in the wrong drawer, the debits in the wrong drawer. We haven't actually analyzed their recommendations yet, but in November, we'll come back to you with anything that they have in terms of findings and how we intend to deal with that. Just a few things about overall budget. We've revised the levy downward by about $400,000 from 24.3 million to about 23.9. Our sales tax modeling is still showing that we should be about 4.4 million. They go up or down a little bit before you see the budget on next Tuesday. One thing that we're seeing is that our health insurance claims are higher this year than we anticipated. About $1 million higher on 4 million. So what's going on with that? We asked our team over at J.A. Towner to help us analyze. We've got 8 cases. Obviously, we can't talk about people, but about 8 cases that are extremely expensive. We imagine 4 of those are going to resolve this year, but we're going to have 3 or 4 that might carry over into the next year. Because of that, we asked our actuary to redo the models and see if we're drawing down the health fund about right, whether we got about the right amount of money budgeted for healthcare next year. And even with this spike, they think we're going to be okay. So there's kind of a nothing burger with that story. Sorry. Let's see. Right now, when we do the math on, we've got $28 million in the general fund, set aside $14 million due to board resolution, $14 million to work with. We start taking away things that are encumbered. We end up with about $5.5 million unencumbered money that the board could direct. Now that's like a savings account. I would argue that you wouldn't want to spend that all at once. You want to be pretty conservative with it, but we do have about $5.5 million of spendable. About half of that, 2.7 and change, is sort of ARPA money. So when I think in your mind about available general fund, about 5.5 million, about 2.7 or so, roughly half is remaining ARPA money.
So that doesn't include what we just saw, those 5 that we just saw.
So we would, when we come in on Tuesday with a list of things that is being recommended from administration, that would draw down either that asset recovery thing, which is really not important to talk about right now, or the general fund.
Okay.
And as of right now, I think we got about $1.2 million in administrator recommendations for spending off the general fund. So you'll see those on Tuesday.
Yeah. So I'll emphasize, we're not suggesting that, oh, you got 5.5 million to spend. We're just saying under the change we made earlier in the year to where we have to reserve 50% of our unaccounted for general fund. That's how much is 5.5 million is what's above that.
Yeah.
And so if you spend it all this year, say, hey, we're going to spend all that, that's fine, except next year probably won't have that much, right? Then it's
the last time we met, that was somewhere, I don't know now, but that was something like 6.8.
Yeah, we have, we are anticipating rolling about $700,000 over from an account that Mo had for consulting services to take care of various projects that have already been committed to. So that increased the encumbered number by about, you did great math in your head. That's about the difference between, that $700,000 is about the difference between what we reported last time. I've only got one more thing to say, and that is, I believe that the new website is launching on October 11th. And thank you, Claire, and IT for all the work you've done with that. It'd be a really great set of changes.
When did you
been
say
working on it long enough.
October 11th. Did I say September 11th?
Today?
Oh, the new website's always scary no matter what.
They've been great. I've been very impressed with how it looks. It's just easier to use. Looks like 2022 instead of 1882.
Good.
All right, let's review the possible draft resolution. Local senior housing.
I see that we don't have it in the.
I have it here. I worked at the end of the week, last week with Terry Howard. He's going to be adding an attached bullet point that summarizes what his PowerPoint presentation talked about as far as the nuances and specifics of the program. And
Sorry, I
so,
didn't have eyes on this right
No
away.
worries.
We had our baby last Wednesday, so.
yeah, you're forgiven this one time.
I've been pretty tech free for the last week.
What did you have?
Baby girl.
Baby girl?
Yeah, Vivian is her name.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hopefully this will be completed by the time she's old enough to use it.
So all this resolution does is direct the administrator to include in his proposed budget. It doesn't actually create the program or create the fund. So it's really a pre-budget recommendation that you're saying we want to have this at the full meeting in November for the full board to consider. It can still go in there arguably without this resolution, but this kind of puts that backdrop of cover for the administrator to include it outright. And I use the number that was given by Terry Howard, the 1.5 million, and the specifics as to the sunset clause more or less after 18 months. So it would be a non-lapsing fund, but reviewable mid-2024 in order to look back and say, hey, was this positive? Did this program have a net positive impact on the housing development situation in Polk County? If it did, and it's rolling, let's keep it going. If there was crickets and nothing, then let's swipe that back to the general fund.
I see City of St. Clair Falls just approved a 16-unit tiny home development geared towards seniors.
Where?
Behind Walmart.
60-acre parcel. that is in-
Tiny homes, like
Yeah.
tiny homes, like park models almost.
And it's got like a unique,
Field?
well, they're incorporating like gardening or something to the
Yeah.
whole.
They're gonna have fruit trees in one area, raised gardens in another area, bees in another area.
Would they qualify for this?
I have no idea.
Melissa, the
Well, that'd be designated for seniors,
gal who,
according to this resolution.
Yeah, that's not designated. for seniors.
So they wouldn't qualify.
she had asked, well, I think it's Melissa Jones who's heading that up, and she had asked for information about this. Because I don't know if they are requiring senior or anything like that, but.
Or maybe they were looking at it as senior, if this is gonna be an option.
Right. Well, it's kind of like, it could just end up naturally being like that, like Balsam Lake Estates up here for the longest time. It was essentially a retirement park, but it wasn't required to do that. You never know.
So Malia, is this the resolution, or does it still need work?
The only thing that needs work is the bullet point attachment. And Terry Howard said he was going to put that together, but it would mirror the information provided in the most recent PowerPoint presentation that he gave with the realtor and the,
And we've gotten that one 3 times now.
and it has changed just a bit, right? The presentation itself.
A little bit.
You know, we presented it here a few times, it's kind of, you know, whatever, and we thought, move it to the board, let's make a decision on this one way or the other. Give them something that people could make an amendment to, if they want to, you know, or deny it or approve it. And the bullet points is just going to be a little more specific explanation of these items. That's
And I believe the topic is already on the county board agenda.
right. So the thought being, this committee may say we recommend moving it onto the board with or without the recommendation.
Your pleasure.
I'll make a motion, we move it on to the board without a recommendation, just leave it open to the board, because I agree, we talked last time that the 5 of us, maybe, is there 5 of us here today? Yeah.
We're in
I-
full agreement.
Yeah, and I'd like to have it go to the board, but I don't necessarily want to have it.
I mean, I would like to vote on whether we want to recommend it.
Let's, I know the motion got a little lengthy there. I don't know if you captured.
I just make a motion to send it to the board without a recommendation.
All right.
Neutral, yeah, neutral
As
recommendation.
of right now, we have a motion on the floor with no second.
I'll say.
Now we have a motion on the floor with a second. Now discussion.
I mean, I think sending it with a neutral recommendation is giving it to the board to let them make the decision. Full board.
Right, but I mean, with or without recommendation, they can still. We're not taking anything away from them by recommending or not recommending.
Correct, yeah, we're not, that's why sending it with a neutral recommendation is.
Are you trying to make an amendment to the motion?
No, I don't think so.
Well, then the motion will just stand. Is there any more discussion? Not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Carries. All right, that'll bring us to public hearing. Both 2023 operating capital improvement budget. What's the possible? Do you have that in our packet?
I don't believe you do.
We
It's-
do.
No, I apologize.
25,
422,
Yeah. And this is a boilerplate with the dates changed, recycled every year. So it's just to be able to get the budget in front.
Hold public
Yeah,
hearing.
hold the public hearing.
Oh. Is that it?
That- The very bottom, it should, the last clause.
So the meeting, this is on November.
Maybe all,
November 15th, it'll be at 5:30.
Right before the regular.
just before the meeting.
Right.
When the meeting time will reflect that, for the agenda is posted.
Right. Meeting will still be at 6, but the public hearing will be at 5:30.
All right, so you need a motion to get that moved on, or what do you need? Resolution. We just approve.
No, I think having the motion, having it go to the full board, so the full board can set the public hearing. But whether this committee takes action on it or not, it'll still be on the county board. So
Yeah.
to make sure that it doesn't need a 2/3 majority to bring it to the floor.
Oh,
Having a
Can we
motion.
get a motion
I'll make-
to move this resolution?
I'll make a motion to move resolution 4522 for the public hearing to the full board.
I'll second
Any discussion on the motion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Carries. All right, how about our work plan? How we need to update it? Getting our work done, that is on our work plan.
Biggie is the budget. We got the amendments that we need. We'll have budget discussion Tuesday night. So.
I just made a note since we weren't sure if it was coming back in November or December, the GAM resolution. I'll add that on November and December on the work plan, and then you can strike it if it's not needed.
All right, any, subject matters for the next meeting, anybody wants to get on the agenda? I don't know if this
Motion
should be
to
our
adjourn.
record time, but
I'll second
all in favor?
it. Aye.
30. I'm adjourned at 9:14.
11.